Ambassador Kelin, could the flare-up of violence in Ukraine's Donbass region, which you blame the Ukrainians for, could that be used to justify an invasion of Ukraine by Russia?
First of all, we have handed over a letter to the US ambassador in Moscow in which is clearly stated that Russia has no plans for incursion into Ukraine. This is absolutely clear. Second is that one should take into attention the composition of forces on Ukraine itself. And it is not on the maps that has been published yesterday, by the way, by your Ministry of Defense. Ukraine has now more than 60% of the whole army in front of Donbass. And it is about 150,000. It's a big cipher. And we can expect any time, of course, that something might happen on the line which is dividing Donbass and the rest of Ukraine.
And if that's something that you talk about might happen, could that be used to justify Russia going to war with Ukraine?
I do not want to predict anything, but I hope this will never happen. But this effect of life and the tension is arising over there, escalation is over there. And we hope very much that President Zelensky understands that de-escalation should happen, first of all, along this line. Stop shelling each other.
See, the fact that you can't obviously rule out, you say there are no plans for an invasion, but you can't rule it out, that gives credence to what the British Prime Minister is saying, for example, that the kindergarten bombing this week was, and I quote, a false flag operation designed to discredit the Ukrainians, designed to create a pretext, a spurious provocation for Russian action. Is he right or is he wrong?
Very eloquent, but he missed all this whole situation because kindergarten was on the territory which is under control by Ukrainian forces.
But you blame the Ukrainians for what's going on in Donbass.
It could not be used as a pretext at all. No, I do exclude totally any incursion, but things might happen. And of course, if it will be about killing of Russian people, Russian-speaking people, serious invasion into Donbass by a mass of Ukrainian forces, this could create a difficult situation in which I'm not saying which kind of measures, but we cannot stand just aside of it.
Okay, so things might happen, and those things might happen in the next few days. We might see Russia and Ukraine in conflict in the next few days.
No, I don't think so, because at the moment, just this morning, the Minister of Defense of Ukraine say that they do not see any chance for escalation along this line. So I hope they understand.
So when Joe Biden, the US president, says he believes that Russia is about to invade Ukraine, is he wrong too?
Absolutely. He's absolutely wrong. He is trying to instigate Ukraine more and more by supplying weapons. It is nearly $800 million of supplement of weapons from US only is now on Ukraine. Of course, it is making them more aggressive with having this support from the United States and just pursuing this goal just to do something. Ukraine feels that US is behind them, UK is behind them, and they might be more aggressive than that.
So if war happens, it will be because of provocation by Ukraine, by the US, by everyone except Russia.
I'm sure that the war will not happen. We totally
You're
understand.
Sure of that?
Absolutely, 100%. This will not happen. The military drills will come to an end on the sea by this Saturday in Belarus, as it was announced by the 20th of February, and the wrap-up of deployment of forces is now in progress. And it will come to an end. But of course, we should not exclude provocations. But I do believe that we can resolve this by negotiations and by talks.
See, the West does not believe that your troops are withdrawing because you've got 150,000 troops, according to the US, on the border. So if you're serious that those troops are coming back, when will they all be gone, every single one of them?
As I have said, that we are finishing military drills and military exercises. Troops are returning into the permanent places of deployment, but this cannot happen overnight. It's a long process.
But so how long until all of those troops have gone?
I have no idea, because it's a plans have been made by general staff, but it is clearly, if you are going to watch Russian television, RT, you will see how columns of tanks and other troops are returning to the bases.
And the field hospitals, are they going to be dismantled too?
I'm not aware of that. If they have been deployed, probably they have been deployed, but everything is, every component which was participating in this deployment will be redeployed in different places.
Well, let me put to you what Lloyd Austin, the US Defense Secretary, has said this week. He's a retired four-star general, as you know, and he says, far from withdrawing troops, you're actually adding to them, inching closer to the border. He says, we even see them stocking up their blood supplies. And he says, I know firsthand that you don't do these sorts of things for no reason. And you certainly don't do them if you're getting ready to pack up and go home.
No, very interesting. You perhaps read it in some newspapers. And the fantasy of journalists, of course, is unlimited. It is what I have seen this morning on the map published by the Ministry of Defense of the United Kingdom. It is very funny. It's old photos. And under each old photos, these photos has been taken in the end of last year. And under each photos, it is signed, situation has changed in the recent days. Well, it is not serious, simply. It is just trying to make hysteria to say after that, that Johnson is going to say, and Austin will say after that, look, we pressed Russia and they are now withdrawing.
It's a bit rich, isn't it, for you to accuse the UK effectively of fake news, of hysteria, when isn't this what the Russians do?
We do what? Hysteria?
Hysteria, fake news, fabrication.
Which fake news we have done?
Well, the claims of genocide in Ukraine, for example.
Mr. Blinken has said that Donbass is making genocide. No. Did you heard what he has said in Security Council? It's a funny story, really.
Well, no, genocide is a claim made by the Russians, a claim that has been entirely
It has been made by State Secretary Blinken yesterday in the Security Council. I was amazed. Genocide.
He's not talking about genocide.
Cathy, please hear me. Genocide, perhaps the word is too strong. Should be, because it has a legal content. It is now one of the terms that has been used in the United Nations. Let's put it aside. But discrimination of the Russian people, discrimination of the Russian-speaking people in Ukraine, it is clear and established fact.
But genocide was a mistake to use that word, as the Russians did.
I do not comment on that. Genocide has strict legal sense.
So the Russian parliament has asked President Putin to recognize the breakaway regions of the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic in eastern Ukraine. I wonder, how soon do you expect that to happen?
It is a political initiative by a political party. It can happen. It reflects feelings that are in Russia. People that are living in Donetsk, they feel threatened by Ukrainian forces, because everybody knows that the common figure that of those who are members of the militia forces in Donetsk, it's about, say, let us 30,000 people, no more. And they are facing a threat from 150 Ukrainians with heavy armaments and all of that. So, of course, they are feeling threatened. They are getting, some of them, Russian citizenship. And the whole mass of Donetsk people, it is nearly 4 million. So it's quite a lot of people over there. And of course, our parliament is sympathizing the feelings. They are sympathizing Russians and Russian-speaking people that are living over there, and they have come out with political initiative. But this idea, it has some chances for existence, but it will be contrary to the Minsk agreements, totally. But for the moment, and for a long time, we are sticking that, first of all, we should implement Minsk agreements, and this is a solution. But you
accept that if you were to recognise those regions, it would be, as the UK Foreign Secretary has said, contrary to the Minsk agreement, and yes, therefore a provocation.
We are not doing this. I'm sure that we are not doing in the current situation, and we hope that Ukraine will also implement all necessary formulations of Minsk agreement, and it will be further steps will not be needed.
I accept that you say that you have no plans to invade Ukraine, but you also say that if things happen, that is an eventuality. You don't rule it out. If you go to war, do you think the Russian people are prepared for the mass casualties that would ensue?
Yes, I do not want to answer my hypothetical answer to the hypothetical question. It's impossible.
But you accept that mass casualties would result from war?
I'm quite sure that we are in a different situation. This is not the 30s, the years of 30s when it was really difficult and when there were different alliances. The war will not happen, but each side should understand, Ukraine should understand that there are something which, that they should not move it and doing it without understanding the general situation. I mean, so this is to prevent the war.
Right.
All what is happening is prevention action, and we should not, by all this hysteria around the war, around accusation, we should not leave out the most important goal, that we need a security guarantees about enlargement of NATO.
I'll come back to that, but you accept that if war were to break out, there would be significant casualties on both sides?
I'm sure, yes, but it will not happen.
Can you sit here with confidence in the embassy in London and say with confidence that war is not going to happen? Because you don't know what's going on inside President Putin's head, do you?
President Putin is he remembers very well the Second World War and what was in St. Petersburg, in Leningrad at that time, how many people has died of that. His father was at war, as I'm not mistaken, and his family seriously suffered. So he is he knows what it is, and he will, I'm sure, based on his knowledge, he will never engage it.
Do you know what he's planning?
No, of course not.
So in a way...
But I can imagine, I have sufficient information to say, and I'm quite absolutely certain that we have given not only oral commitments, but we have now given written commitments in the letter that to the US President.
So you think that's stepping back from the brink?
It is absolutely stepping back. We are for de-escalation. If we are doing this relief of military tension, we are now moving troops back, and we are very surprised by saying what has been said by Boris Johnson, by Liz Truss, and all of that. They are not only deaths to our arguments, but perhaps they are very short-sighted.
Why don't you think people in the West believe you? Why don't you think people in the West believe you?
It's Goebbels has said, if you will repeat 100 times a lie, it is becoming truth.
That's what Russia does, isn't it?
No, come on, Cathy, stop it, please.
But isn't that, I mean, we are told by our governments that war is going to happen. This is what's happening. There will be a false flag operation. There will be a provocation.
I have already said that it is all to say the day after tomorrow or in a week's time that, look, what we pressed Putin with words, we warned him, we said him about sanctions, and he blinked and he stepped back.
Are you worried about the sanctions that are being planned by the West?
Not very much, I will say.
So
not very much. We, United States, after in the recent years, has made 58 counts of sanctions against Soviet Union and then Russia. We are living under sanction all our life.
And it doesn't hurt you much? So Russia's ambassador to Sweden said that Vladimir Putin, quote, doesn't give a shit about sanctions. Do you agree with him?
Of course it is bad. It is bad for relationship. It is bad for businessmen to work. It is bad for the markets, of course. Although, as far as I see, the Russian ruble valued against the dollar and euro is not changing its situation. So sanctions is always bad, especially if they are illegal and established unilaterally, not with approval of the United Nations.
So Sergei Lavrov has talked about retaliation against sanctions, the Russian foreign minister, and Russia expelled the US deputy ambassador in Moscow yesterday. Should the UK expect similar treatment?
No, we did not expel. That was a counter, because earlier United States has expelled minister counselor which worked in Washington, from Washington. It happened. And it was just a measure which brings situation in balance.
But would you expect Russia to retaliate if sanctions are imposed by the UK, by the US?
All the time. To every sanction, it will be retaliation measures, of course.
What kind of retaliation?
It depends on sanctions.
But I mean, for example, Russia supplies, 35% of Europe's gas. Could that supply be turned off, reduced?
Well, I have no idea, but we have our government, economists, central bank, and all of that, and they will be prepared for any kind of retaliation, which, if sanctions measures will happen, retaliation will be done immediately.
So you would be confident that sanctions would end up hurting the West more than it hurts Russia?
Well, I have no idea. It is, again, hypothetical question, and you ask for me a hypothetical answer to any hypothesis.
The Home Secretary, Priti Patel, is halting the golden visa, the investor visa that a lot of wealthy Russians have used to come and settle in the UK. Again, will we miss the rich Russians more than they will miss the UK?
It's a funny story for me, really. It's a common knowledge here that Russian dirty money, it is only 4%, 4% only of all laundering money in London. So there are much larger problems with other money, which are also black money. You speak about some measures against Russians, but these are measures against Russians that has escaped from Russia, mainly to settle them here.
They're no friends of yours, you mean?
I don't know any person here who can be my friend who has escaped Russia because he has for laundering of money.
There's £1.5 billion of Russian money in London property alone. That's not insignificant.
I have no slightest idea what it is about, but Russian speakings, it is all those who come from the Soviet Union, also from Baltic republics, they mostly signing them up as Russians.
Okay, if sanctions don't bother you or don't trouble you unduly, does a NATO deployment in Eastern Europe, does that concern you more?
Of course, yes, of course, because under all these false pretexts, what's going on, actually, we are exercising on our own territory. We are a bit exercising on the territory of Belarus because we are in common, but we will withdraw from the territory, Belarusian territory. But what is happening with NATO deployment, it is, of course, on the territory of new member states of Eastern European countries, and this is an offensive deployment which is forbidden by the Russian NATO Founding Act.
You say offensive deployment, but they're responding to what they see as Russian aggression on the borders of Ukraine. And I just wonder whether your actions, the build-up of troops on the border, has given NATO a new lease of life. It's renewed, it's invigorated the US, the leadership of the West. It's brought European allies together. The UK, Poland, and Ukraine have signed a memorandum of cooperation. The very thing that Russia didn't want is now happening.
It is about bigger things, of course. It's about necessity to establish normal rules of coexistence on new European architecture, because NATO, it is not a European architecture. It does not include serious other countries, many other countries. Neither Russian Federation, no Belarus, no part of Kazakhstan, which is also part of Europe, by the way, no Caucasus Republic. So we are always standing, and we were standing and fighting for overwhelming European architecture that includes everybody, and everybody should get equal security guarantees, including Ukraine, of course, as well.
But your opponents are now lined up against you, invigorated by what they've seen happen on the border with the Ukraine. Does that worry you? Or actually, with the attention of the world on Russia, do you think they're dancing to your tune?
It is unpleasant of what is happening. As I say, they're trying to ruin last remnants of the arms control agreements that we have. But I hear many voices also, not in the UK, by the way. So UK's position is unanimous here. But in Europe, we hear that we need new arms control agreements, of course, and we do believe that we really need to strike agreements in the field of medium-range missiles, in the field of conventional weapons, weapons, new agreements in the field of military transparency and all of that. But all this, what I have named, has been proposed by us a couple of years ago. Now it is returning to us as proposals of NATO, so we have now common grounds. But we also need to decide the major questions of the security guarantees against enlargement of NATO, against NATO standing at our door.
Final question. If we were to return to invite you on the program in a week's time, do you think there will be no conflict between Russia and Ukraine by then?
Absolutely.
Hand on heart?
I will be prepared to come back in a week's time, and we will see what's going to happen. I'm sure that if it will be not very much pushed by President Biden and Prime Minister Johnson, who will be by that time at many conferences, we will live in peace and prosperity, and we will be on a diplomatic path of negotiations.
Ambassador Kelin, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cathy.